Welcome to InkThinks. Anyone who knows me could tell you that I absolutely love superheroes. Whether it's Marvel, DC, anime, or even real-life superheroes, I love the story behind the hero's journey. Seeing someone start from nothing and grow into a force that fights for good and helps people in need has always been so inspiring to me. With the recent rise of superhero movies in the last decade, many millions more people have fallen in love with and been inspired by these characters that I've always loved. Some of my favorite superheroes are Nightwing, Superman, and Iron Man, but as long as I can remember, one hero has always stood out above the rest to me, and has long since held the title of my favorite superhero of all time, Spider-Man. I've always loved Spider-Man, but with the recent release of Spider-Man on the PS4, as well as seeing Tom Holland portray Spider-Man in the movies, I began thinking, why? Why is Spider-Man such a great hero? Well, I think I have it boiled down to one big reason. So, why is Spider-Man so great? Let's talk about that. Let's start by getting a basis of who Spider-Man is. Created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, Spider-Man is a superhero who first appeared in the comic Amazing Fantasy number 15. Peter Parker was a genius high school student on a field trip who got bitten by a radioactive spider. He soon found that the bite gave him superhuman abilities. He could stick to walls and had immense strength and had a spider sense that could give him awareness of his surroundings. Peter also utilized his intellect to invent web shooters that allowed him to swing from tall buildings and web up his foes. These powers were amazing, spectacular even, but they're not the thing that makes Spider-Man who he is. The moment that defined who Spider-Man is as a person came when his father figure and hero, Uncle Ben, was killed. One of the last things that Uncle Ben ever said to Peter was a philosophy that Peter's father held. If you have the ability to do something better than anyone else could, and it was something that could help or bless others, it wasn't just a good idea to do that thing, it was your responsibility. Or, in other words,
with great power comes great responsibility.
Peter took this philosophy to heart. He decided then and there that no matter what happened, no matter how powerful he became, he would always live up to that responsibility. Understanding this mindset and motivation is fundamental to understanding the character of Spider-Man. Peter does the right thing just because it's the right thing to do. Now that I've given the Spider-Man 101 course, let's talk about why he's so great of a hero. When it comes down to it, Spider-Man is relatable. Tony Stark was a billionaire playboy philanthropist. Without his suit, he still hasn't made. Thor is a literal god who's been alive for centuries. Without his hammer, he's still that same god. Peter Parker is a broke high school student, and sometimes a college student. He's picked on at school, he has trouble with girls, he can't hold a job, he struggles to pay rent, he has an overbearing boss. We will likely never be a Tony Stark or a Thor, but in one way or another, we've all been a Peter Parker. We know what it's like to be picked on, or to not have enough money, or to not be great with the opposite sex. In a way, seeing Peter Parker put on a mask and transform from dull into spectacular is like seeing ourselves do the same. So let's talk about why Spider-Man is so great when he's wearing the mask. One of the most admirable aspects of Spider-Man is that he will never give up, no matter how daunting the task is. One of Spidey's most defining moments is in Amazing Spider-Man number 229 and 230. In the story, Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut. The gist of it is this. Madam Web, a powerful psychic, gets a vision of Juggernaut coming to kill her. She's convinced that only Spider-Man can stop Juggernaut and save her. Now, if you're not familiar with Juggernaut, let me fill you in real fast. His real name is Cain Marko. After finding a special gem, he was given a suit of armor and made nearly unstoppable and invincible. Just to illustrate how crazy out of Spider-Man's league this guy is, he can take punches from the Hulk, took Thor's God Blast to the face and said it tickled, and he beat the snot out of King Hyperion, who, by the way, is one of the closest things Marvel has to a hero being on Superman's level. Needless to say, this guy is way out of Spider-Man's class. Cain Marko charges into the city toward Madam Web, and Spider-Man jumps into the fray. He tries everything he can think of to stop the Juggernaut, but his webs don't work, throwing things at him doesn't work, and shocking him with 1,000,000 volts doesn't even faze him. Juggernaut ends up catching Madam Web, almost kills her, and leaves. This is the moment that really defines Peter. He's lost. He's tried everything he could think of to stop Juggernaut and nothing worked. It's at this point other heroes may have given up, but not Spider-Man. He feels personally responsible to stop Marko. He knows the Avengers aren't coming, he knows the Fantastic Four isn't coming, and he knows he's way outclassed. On top of all of this, he he also knows that he's the best chance that the city has to stop this guy right now. Peter goes back into the fight, only to have Juggernaut throw a building at him. Peter knows he doesn't have a shot, but manages to try tactic after tactic, taking beating after beating, until he finally finds a way somehow to stop Juggernaut. I don't want to spoil for you how he does it, you'll have to see for yourself, but the key here is Spider-Man never gave up and defied all odds, even though he knew he stood almost no chance, and in doing so, he took down a Titan. Now there's a few other heroes who wouldn't have given up here. Certain brave heroes like Captain America would have gone into this battle fearlessly. However, there's one key quality about Spider-Man that makes him more relatable than these other heroes during these fights. Captain America would have fought Juggernaut fearlessly until he beat him, which would have been admirable. Spider-Man, however, goes into these battles being honestly super kind of scared and unsure, but he still battles despite this fear. How do we know that he's unsure? I'm going to give you a little insight into Spider-Man. One of the most memorable things about our favorite web slinger are his famous one-liners and jokes, but have you ever stopped to wonder why he makes those jokes? There's two main reasons. The first is that it gets his enemies angry and unfocused, which makes them a bit easier to fight. But the main reason he makes these jokes is because he gets scared, and it helps him calm his nerves. He wants citizens to see him making jokes and feel like he's got it all under control and to feel safe. In reality though, sometimes he's very unsure about himself and he doesn't know how he's going to beat a foe. He makes jokes to ease himself and give himself confidence. To me, going into a battle, even though you're scared, is much more relatable and much more admirable than going into a battle fearlessly. One of the most famous Spider-Man stories illustrates the same point in a different light. The 1965 story arc, If This Be My Destiny, illustrates Peter at one of his lowest moments. Aunt May has fallen gravely ill, and the only antidote for her lies in the underwater layer of Dr. Octopus. It's when Spidey goes to retrieve it that he finds himself pretty much at the weakest point imaginable. After a fierce battle with Dr. Octopus, Spider-Man finds himself trapped under literal tons of steel as the layer floods. So here we have Peter, beaten up, being crushed to death, his aunt is dying and he's utterly defeated. This is when Peter's sheer willpower is fully noticeable. He tells himself that anyone can win when the odds are easy. It's when the going gets tough and when there seems to be no chance. That's when it counts, and he pushes himself harder than he ever had before, and he lifts the rebel off of him. The same scene comes to life in Spider-Man Homecoming. Peter's been utterly beaten by the Vulture. He lost a potential girlfriend, and he's about to witness Stark lose billions of dollars, and he's completely demoralized. But out of the same hopelessness, Peter pulls through once again. I want to tell one last story to illustrate Spider-Man's heart and sense of morality. In my personal favorite Spider-Man story, called The Kid Who Collects Spider-Man, we read the story of a kid named Tim, who's Spider-Man's biggest fan. He collects all of his memorabilia and merchandise, as well as having a collection of every news clipping the Daily Bugle has ever posted about Spider-Man. The kicker is this: Tim has terminal leukemia and only has a few weeks to live. Peter hears about this and visits the kid. They reminisce about the various news articles that had come out in the past, and they share a few laughs and even a hug. Peter even shares his true identity with Tim when he sees how much it means to him. Peter knew that even though it was a simple gesture, it was exactly what he needed to do to make this kid's life just a bit better before it ended. When it comes down to it, Spider-Man is one of the greatest heroes ever because of how relatable he is. He's a superhero, but he's also just a kid. He doesn't know what he's doing sometimes, but he'll never give up. Spider-Man does what's right every time just because he knows it's the right thing to do. He has a heart of gold that guides him and never strays away from his sense of what is right. I like to think that in a way, there's a little bit of Spider-Man in each and every one of us. Hey, thank you for watching the video, and make sure to leave a comment below to tell me who's your favorite superhero. I'm really curious about what you all have to say. I'm sure if you made it this far into the video, you might be thinking, I'd really love to get into the Spider-Man comic books, but I'm not sure how. Well, let me help you with that real fast. I have a 3-step plan to getting you into Spider-Man. Number 1, go online and get a Marvel Unlimited membership. They're not a sponsor, but this service is so great. You get virtually every Marvel comic ever for only $10 a month. Step 2, find Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 1. In my opinion, this is the definitive way to get into Spider-Man, and it's one of the best entry points into the character. Step 3, profit. Anyway, thank you for stopping by. If you liked my video, then please do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button. It literally makes my day every time I get a new subscriber, so I would love to have you here. Also, feel free to stop by my Discord and talk to me. I would love to chat with you guys about Spider-Man or Nintendo or really anything. I'm on there every day, so it's the best place to reach me. The link is in the description below. And until next time, stay smashing.